we had been talking about the numbers from a new Harvard-Harris poll. Remember, the polls got it right in Iowa, and I think they're about to get it right in New Hampshire as well. And the biggest concern that we've seen in all the data involving Trump v. Biden in a 2024 matchup was a poll from a few months ago that showed Trump winning in every swing state unless there is a conviction. Now, it's more specific than that. And I think this data, this additional data, is closer to the truth than that initial, or closer to the reality of what would happen than that initial poll. Here's what I'm talking about. This new poll that's out here, like I said, Harvard Harris poll. If Trump is convicted of crimes related to his handling of classified documents, who would you vote for president? Trump's still up 6. If Trump is convicted by a jury for RICO charges, Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, I think I got that one right. Who would you vote for president? Trump still wins up 2, even after conviction. And I don't think that trial is even going to happen anymore. The whole thing's probably going to go away, or it's collapsing as we speak. But if Trump is convicted for inciting the Capitol riots of January 6th, who would you vote for president? Suddenly there is a swing, and Joe Biden is up 52-48. Does this track? Do you think this is accurate? And is this basically telling us that the only hope that the Biden Democrats have right now for another 4 years of Joe Biden / Kamala Harris when she takes over / whoever maybe steps in for him is a conviction in the D.C. January 6th case? Is this how you see it?
I am inclined to think that everything is baked in. Based on, we talked to J.D. Vance about this earlier, that people have basically made up their mind. But this is the entire race for Democrats. They have essentially gambled everything. They pushed their chips into the table. They said, we want Trump as the opponent. And they believe that if they get a conviction, particularly in that January 6th Jack Smith case, that it will swing the election in their favor. Now, I don't think they ever thought, Buck, that they would be sitting in a situation. I mentioned the third party, and I do think it's the wild card here, exactly how this would play. In the Harvard-Harris poll, as you just mentioned, Trump is up 6. But what's really intriguing to me is if you throw all of these third-party candidates in, so they polled Trump, Biden, RFK Jr., Cornel West, Jill Stein, right? Cornel West, the left-wing black professor from Harvard.
Princeton.
Decently known. Is he at Princeton now? Was he formerly at Harvard?
I don't know. They're both
has
both
been
fancy
an Ivy
places.
League leftist for some time, but decently well-known. Jill Stein, obviously the Green Party. She says she's coming back. And we know RFK Jr., we talked about that earlier. Trump actually has an 11-point lead there. Now, this is without Chris Christie. This is without the no labels, as Buck said, may be designed to keep Trump from being elected. But if you only had RFK Jr., Trump's up 8. If you have Trump, he's up 11. My thought is, as you analyze this, and I think most of you would agree, Trump's 44 or 45 is as diehard as any 44 or 45 out there. That is the percentage that would support him. I don't think there really is a Biden base. I think there's an anti-Trump base. The more options there are, the more the anti-Trump vote gets diluted, which is why, Buck, when I said, like, if Joe Manchin runs, I think it hurts Biden. I think when you don't have a hardcore base, that your support is more fungible and people are willing to go elsewhere. Like, I think the 44 or 45% that Trump has baked in that will show up for him would walk through, a fiery conflagration to be able to cast a ballot for Trump. I think Biden's support is not that, right? There is no diehard Biden base. So I think every third party, by and large, hurts him.
I've never met a person who was deeply emotionally invested in Joe Biden. Every Democrat
Correct.
I know is deeply emotionally invested in defeating Donald Trump, so it doesn't really matter. But I've never met somebody who goes, you know who really gets me fired up about leadership in America? Joe Biden. Like, no one believes
Yeah.
that. Also in this poll, though, I thought this was really interesting. Immigration is now, same Harvard Harris poll, top concern for voters, up 7 points in the last month. It is now at 35%. It is ahead of inflation. And 77% of voters think the Biden administration should make a deal with Republicans to increase security. 65% of Democrats and 68%, this is what's really tough for them, think the Biden administration should make it tougher to get into the U.S. illegally. Okay, 68% of people think Biden needs to make it harder. This is what I'm saying. This is a 70-30 issue now in America. And that's why Clay, I mean, is he our favorite Democrat senator now? I mean, do we need to just suck it up and speak the truth here? Is John Fetterman, of the Democrats, the best Democrat senator, or is this all some ploy to, throw people off, and now he's going moderate and he's going to become a commie again? I don't know, but all I can tell you is listen to what he says here. This is cut 24 about a secure border.
I honestly don't understand why it's controversial to say we need a secure border. I've been very clear. In fact, that was weaponized against me as Republicans in my race, that I'm very much a strong supporter of immigration. And, my wife's family, that's the Oregon story about that. And I think two things can be true at the same time. You can be very supportive of immigration, but we also need to have a secure border. And I think about immigration as we want to provide the American dream for any migrant. But it seems very difficult when you have 300,000 people showing up encountered at our border.
I mean, he's not like perfect on immigration, obviously, but he's better than some Republicans. I mean, if we're going to speak truth on this one, I think he's better on the border than some Republican senators are right now, which is astonishing considering he came in as the hoodie-wearing communist of Pennsylvania.
I think I would have to say of any Democrat senator that I have seen so far in the last 6 months or so, since October 7th for sure, which seems to have been October 7th for Fetterman seems to have been a clarifying moment. And I mean, heck, I don't know that he would come on this show. I mean, I guess, Allie, we could invite him. I mean, I imagine that he would not want to come on radio because I think he still has auditory processing issues. And it might not go very well for him. And even when you hear him talk there, I mean, it's not a perfectly scripted answer. But since October 7th, I think he's been rattled. I honestly think if you sat down with John Fetterman, I think there are many Fettermans out there. I hear from them, Buck, because they said, I thought when you talked about identity politics, culture war stuff, I thought you were exaggerating where we were headed. I think if you are rational, let me say this to everybody out there as we get rolling in 2024. You should be willing to change your opinion if the facts change on any situation that is out there that you have an opinion on. You should constantly be challenging yourself. You should be looking at the facts. You should be assessing. You should be analyzing. You should be processing. And you should be willing to adjust. I think the people who were on the left and are honest, October 7th shook a lot of them. Not only what happened with Hamas's attack upon Israel, but the fact that so many people lined up and said Israel is to blame. And what John Fetterman is saying is 100% true. There should be no one in America who's opposed to a secure southern border. None of us benefit. None of us. By restricting the flow of illegal immigration. And so what happened is, I think, Buck, if you go back to 2015, the idea of a wall is not crazy. What's the first thing most rich people do when they buy a home? They put a freaking wall around it.
Of course, walls work, and anyone who spent any time with Border Patrol will say that the wall is a tool, like so many things.
Yes.
It's not a argument ender. It's not, we have a wall, now everything's over, because people can drill holes in it, or they can put a ladder. I mean, there are ways. I've seen people arrested for going through the wall, but they got arrested because it slows them down. It allows a greater concentration of Border Patrol resources in high traffic areas. There are sensors. There's multiple fences. There's a lot of things that come into it. But I thought this really hit it home. It's just something that's not getting very much attention. But right now I'm trying to find the name. Oh, yeah. In Denver Health, which is a hospital in Denver, That's pretty obvious, I guess. A Denver hospital.
It would be an upset if it was New York City, but
Yeah, it would really throw people off. They have a budget shortfall of over $136 million and are demanding a federal bailout. And they say that, you know what's causing this, folks? Caring for more than 8,000 illegal aliens, particularly in their emergency rooms. Destroying this hospital is going bankrupt. A major hospital in Denver. That's just in Denver. They don't even have that many new illegals piling in there. 30% of ER visits across New York City, across the 5 boroughs, as of, I think it was a couple months ago, migrants, illegals, just because that's where they go to get health care. And they're also getting health care in these migrant centers, by the way, but that's a whole other thing. But, you can imagine if you're sitting there and, you had an accident and you got a screwdriver sticking through your forearm and you really need help in the ER, while migrants are there getting prescription glasses and stuff, you got to wait. It's not good.
No, and this is where Greg Abbott's decision to actually force these sanctuary cities to live by the sort of left-wing talking points that they were endorsing on a regular basis. Oh, we're a sanctuary city. Oh, we believe in. I mean, I thought DeSantis called this out perfectly when he flew people into Martha's Vineyard. Saw how quickly Martha's Vineyard, with only 50 immigrants arriving, illegal immigrants, totally collapsed. They couldn't handle 50. They declared a state of emergency. They forced them off the island, right? I mean, the Boston fell apart. Just 50. And I think all of these places that geographically are remote, New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., Chicago, for examples in this country, Denver is having it happen too. But they all were able to basically make hay from the fact that they aren't that geographically close to having to deal with the issue. And what Greg Abbott forced everybody to have to reconcile with is what Texas deals with on a day-to-day basis. And by the way, Buck, that Harvard-Harris poll that you mentioned, not only did that Harvard-Harris poll came out today, I believe it was Suffolk came out with a New York State Biden v. Trump poll. And in third-party racing, Trump was only down 9 points in New York State. And you say, how in the world does that happen? That's, again, when you factor in the third-party candidates, I think it was. It was like 46-37, something like that. He's now, Trump, winning a majority of Hispanic voters in the state of New York. Think about how crazy that is. Again, New York is not particularly a battleground state, but the Hispanic vote is moving, according to that Suffolk poll that came out today, in a way now that Trump is winning the majority of Hispanic vote in New York State. And I think that's partly related to illegal immigration.